All right, Bryce, book club this month.
Yep.
Let's play the Sting.
Book club.
So the book this month, Traffic, Genius, Rivalry, and Delusion in the $1 billion race to go viral by Ben Smith.
Yeah. Haven't read it, but I obviously, because
that's the premise of this
segment.
All right, so I've got 3 big learnings for you.
Okay,
and
good, because I want to go viral.
Yeah. Within those learnings, I'll sort of tell the story of the book.
Okay.
And I should say that this is with our investor hat on,
Okay.
not our media executive hat on.
Okay.
Yeah. So number 1, there are no barriers to entry in media anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this book follows the story of these digital media companies that sort of sprung up late 90s, early 2000s and beyond. Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Gawker, Valleywag, Jezebel, Deadspin, Gizmodo, TechCrunch, Drudge Report, Breitbart, Politico, Upworthy. Do any of those names sort of...
Yeah, definitely a few of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they it starts with the sort of the prime blogging years, call it, of 2000 to 2008, pre-social media dominance. And a lot of the ones of that list that I spoke about that spun up in that time were just websites. They just were websites, 1 or 2 people, spun up, started attracting traffic, no major capital costs, just good and often very cheap people. What you can sort of learn from the media business is that with barriers to entry this low, just spin up a website and start writing, and all content being equal on the internet, you know, like a deeply reported New York Times investigative report and a BuzzFeed 45 photos that will make you go, oh, like they have equal footing and equal billing on the internet. It's a great equalizer. It just means that the lowest cost content wins. Because, you know, like that's what you can do profitably and cheaply and quickly and do more of it. And so to give you a sense of how the media business works, an example from BuzzFeed, they did an article, 45 most powerful images of 2011. Mm-hmm. It got 3 million views in 3 days. And if I make it up, call it a $20 CPM back in those days, which is cost per 1,000 impressions, they would have made 60 grand from that article. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know,
pretty decent.
That's pretty good. But then, you know, if you compare that to what the New York Times has to pay to do some of their reporting.
Worlds apart.
That's why low-cost content wins, or was winning back then. The other thing that you very quickly learn with a lot of these blogs is that when barriers to entry are this low, your decency is someone else's opportunity. And what I mean by that is like a lot of the legacy media companies had journalistic standards and things that they wouldn't report on. And so a lot of these companies, especially the Gawker companies, they just came through and were just like,
let's rip it.
Yeah, like if it's going to get clicks, we'll do it.
Yeah.
There's one example in the book, Brett Favre, the quarterback, sent inappropriate pictures and the media had them, but no one was publishing them. So then one of the Gawker websites decides to publish them. 6 million, they paid 12 grand for them.
Okay.
6 million page views. Again, call it a $20 CPM. They made 120 grand off that.
12 grand seems pretty cheap.
To get them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that's essentially the media business of the past 25 years.
Yeah.
There's no barriers to entry. You get attention and you put ads against it.
Yeah.
And anyone was doing it.
Yeah.
Takeaway number 2, the platforms giveth and the platforms taketh away.
Very true.
Then in 2011, really, it all changes.
Yeah.
So you read through the first era, which is like the blogging era, where people have to find out about your website and go to your website. Then the Google SEO era lasts for about like 5 or 6 years. And then we move into the platform era. And Google's obviously still incredibly important. But for these media companies, the main source of traffic becomes Facebook and Twitter. And this is where BuzzFeed and Breitbart take center stage. BuzzFeed was just optimized for, it was optimized for Twitter and Facebook over its own website, which was a massive paradigm shift even back then. And I think that's a really important learning for anyone who wants to be in media. It's like jump on the changing trend and jump on it early. And that's really what they did. These are my words. They were BuzzFeed was a traffic pig. Anything to get traffic. Like experiment after experiment, it worked. There was no rhyme or reason. It was like if it got traffic, just keep doing it. They didn't care.
Did they pay pay for views? They would have surely.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
organic
yeah.
through
The
Facebook?
guy that started BuzzFeed, Jonah Peretti, is like the king of going viral on the internet.
Right.
He also made Huffington Post
Oh, right.
what it was. Yeah, he's sort of seen as like a whiz kid, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. BuzzFeed growth. 2011 to 2012, they went from 30 million unique views a month to 80 million unique views a month, from 4 million in revenue to 17 million in revenue. So like there's real money and real people here. But then all of a sudden, the platforms make a tweak and it kills your business.
Yeah.
And the example in the book that's really relevant here, do you remember the dress?
The one that was like, depending which way you looked at it.
Yeah, it was like gold and white or
yeah.
blue and black.
Yes.
Do you remember which way you saw it?
Gold.
Yeah, I saw it as gold as well. Yeah. BuzzFeed published that, and it was the most viral moment in internet history. And we'll probably never have anything that viral again.
Really?
Because the platforms all freaked out and they realized that they couldn't control what they'd built. That was the moment where they were like, this was beyond us and beyond any of our ability to control it. And so then they put all these restrictions on content after that, being able to take off like that again.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. So the dress, and I think their logic, well, at least in the book, it explains their logic was this time it was a harmless photo of a dress. Yeah. What if next time it's something that we just can't control, but it's damaging?
Yeah.
So you can understand their perspective on it, but it just, the tweaks that they made just killed a lot of these, or just hurt a lot of these businesses.
Wow.
Around that time, 2015, 2016, 2017, a lot of these platforms realized that their traffic was becoming less valuable. They're having to do more and get more impressions for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
The correlation between traffic and revenue was breaking. BuzzFeed, so smart at this point, they raised 200 million at a 1.7 billion valuation from NBC Universal, right when they realized that they were in trouble.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yes.
But how's this for how big BuzzFeed was? At that stage, they had 1,700 staff across 12 offices around the world.
What would they have been doing in revenue? 2012, they were only doing 17 million. What were they doing at that point? Do you know?
I don't know, but yeah.
200 million at 1.7 billion
I know.
1,700 staff.
Yeah, I know. It's like all of the logic from the first learning, which is like there are no barriers to entry, low cost content wins. Then they seem to have forgotten in the second part, which was 1,700.
Far out.
1,700 staff, all making just like listicles and quizzes.
Yes, literally, the infinite quiz.
Okay, so that's the second learning, that in some ways you have to ride the hot platform, but they can also crush you.
Yeah.
And then the third learning, thinking about media as an investor, and is media investable these days? I think the learning from this book is as quickly as a lot of these media companies rise, they fall. The lack of barriers to entry means that any outsized profit is competed away really quickly. It's hard to have a moat or a sustainable competitive advantage. The lesson here is to capitalize on new technologies and new sources of traffic before they get arbitraged away, before they become more expensive or too crowded to capture. Two examples that I think tell the story of media as an investor. First of all, Huffington Post was all driven by SEO. They were just like, they nailed Google SEO. They sold for $315 million. They were getting 30 million unique website visitors a month. Jonah Peretti was one of the co-founders of Huffington Post, made tens of millions of dollars in the sale. He put 10 grand into Garrett Camp's car sharing company. Does that ring a bell? That's Uber.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Made twice as much from that investment in Uber as he did from the Huffington Post. Like, that is a story of the power of investing. Yeah. Didn't have to do any of the work to build Uber, made twice as much.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Huffington Post. But then the second lesson is BuzzFeed. So by 2013, they were getting 130 million unique visitors a month. They were massive. They got an offer from Disney.
Oh, wow.
They got the Disney buyout offer. $450 million upfront plus $200 million in incentives.
Shit.
that was double what they'd raised at 9 months earlier. Like this was like the Godfather offer from Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Would you take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hindsight's easy, but yeah.
They decided not to take it.
Oh, wow.
Not about a year later, they raised at an $850 million valuation led by Andreessen Horowitz.
Half of their previous.
No. So this was before that big one.
Oh, okay.
Then they do the big NBC Universal at 1.7. So at this point, you're thinking they did the right thing not taking the Disney offer. Then in 2021, they go public via a SPAC at 1.5 billion valuations.
Yeah.
So a bit off, but still much bigger than the Disney offer. Today, worth $90 million.
Jeez.
As quickly as they rise, they
that's
fall.
That's a wipeout.
Yeah.
They've gone to zero, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow, some great lessons there. Tough business to be in.
I know. It's a fascinating story. The book itself is a little navel-gazy in the sense that it's like, if you don't care about some of these websites and some of the people involved, it drags at points.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting history of the last 25 years of the internet and how much it's changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they give an indication of where to next?
For
internet? Like going viral, like where, platform, like the age of the platform, where that's going next. I guess probably written before AI was really having its moment, but
yeah, I mean, the big thing for me, the big takeaway is up until the last few years, everything was off platform. In the blogging age, you build an audience coming to your website. In the Google age, you use Google to drive traffic to your website. In the early days of the platforms, you use the platforms to drive traffic to your website. But it's really only in the last, call it 5 or 6 years, that it's now you can't drive traffic to your website.
Yeah.
Like Instagram make it near impossible. People aren't going off TikTok to go to your platform. No one uses Facebook for news or articles anymore. So it's just the whole paradigm has shifted. Like all of these businesses are struggling because there's a whole new generation.
Yeah.
It's companies like, the Daily Oz and stuff that are built be on platform.
Yeah.
But then,
so much risk in that.
But then you go back to that second learning, which is the platforms giveth and the platforms taketh away.
Yeah.
And, Daily Oz dealing with Meta thinking about news at the moment. It's like that's a classic example of that as well.
Far out.
Media's tough.
Media's tough. If you have a book that you'd like Ren to read, hit us up at equitymates.com/contact. But Ren, before they start flooding in, what have you got for next month?
So this was a very business-focused book. Yeah. This month, I reckon we go back to investing.
Okay.
I want to revisit a classic, The Little Book That Still Beats the Market by Joel Greenblatt.
Nice. That's one I actually have read.
Oh, do you want to do it?
No. I'll be able to chime in a little bit on that one.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.